don't really know what to tell you. Harrison Butker with the game-winning field goal from 50-plus yards as the Chiefs come back to beat the Bengals 26-25. Lots to talk about over the next 2.5 hours. And if you want to express your thoughts, you can call in now at 913-381-0810. That's 913-381-0810. Let us know your reactions to the Chiefs' 26-25 win over Cincinnati. They move to 2-0 in the regular season. They knock out both of the AFC North foes in these first 2 weeks, and it was not for the faint of heart. You're probably still sweating. Your nails are all bitten off. You feel nauseous because maybe you're not used to it in September, so early on in the year, caring this much. But in the Mahomes era, you probably are used to it at this point in time. And 4th and 16, no, it's not the typical Mahomes magic that you're used to. Him completing some miraculous play. It was the Bengals making a boneheaded one. Right after Wanya Morris makes a boneheaded play when Patrick Mahomes did have some magic on that 4th down play in the final drive of the game. Look, there are little moments throughout a game that you can point to and you could say that it completely swung it. Right? There's little moments here. Now, this goes all the way back to the first quarter. There are little moments here and there where you have this massive shift in the game. But it feels like with these teams, no matter when that shift happens, no matter who gets that shift, the game's never really over. And I think it was a perfect example on that final drive of the game. Just when you think Cincinnati's had all the momentum, this is it, 48 seconds to go, Wanya Morris has illegal hands in the face, and it's 4th and 16, and then that play happens. A pass interference call, or in my opinion, if there is no interference, I think Rashee Rice comes up with that ball. I think it's more so on Cincinnati's defense not letting the number one wide receiver for Kansas City get open in a spot like that. But you heave it up there, you have to heave it up there. And the pass interference puts the Chiefs in field goal range, but let me be clear about this. It's Harrison Butker's field goal range. How many times in the NFL do you see a team just kind of run the ball and set it up from 50-plus, having full faith in their kicker that they can knock it through? And there was no to the left, to the right. Did he get enough of it? Harrison Butker could have nailed that from 70 yards. He could have. And that's why you pay him. That's why you gave him the extension to kick in moments like this. Now, he's done it before in the postseason. I feel like if you asked him if he was feeling any nerves on that final kick, he probably wasn't. I mean, that's about as cool and collected as you could be. And before we get to our first thoughts here on the phone line, and we'll kick things off with Jerry, the one thing I want to say here, that was an ugly game for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes didn't play well. Defense had some issues tackling, mainly in the second half there on a couple of the Bengals' drives. The coverage of the tight ends was not good. Overall, the Chiefs didn't play well. They had to bench their rookie left tackle because he was getting abused by Trey Hendrickson. Not a lot went well in this game, but the Super Bowl contenders, the championship-level teams in the NFL, they find a way to win games like this. And today, that's exactly what they did. Last Thursday, it's exactly what they did. You're put up against a test like this. You need a big play. You need to overcome bad quarterback play, turnovers. Those are all things we're going to get into when we go over the negative parts about this game. But as I talked about last week in the win against Baltimore, you're stacking wins. No, there will be times to bring up the negatives and go over what's not right about this team, but the reality is they get out of these first two games and taking on a very good Baltimore team, though they did lose today to the Raiders, and a Cincinnati team that I just didn't want to take too much away from last week with the Patriots loss. You kind of felt like they were going to come out and they were going to have a different intensity. They wanted to come into Arrowhead Stadium and dethrone the Chiefs as much as you can dethrone a team in week 2. But that game meant a lot to them. This game means a lot to both sides because there's bragging rights. And I've said this before about the rivals of the Chiefs, that with Buffalo, I think there's hatred on both sides, but there's a lot of respect on both sides. I don't think you see a ton of trash talking on both sides. When it comes to the Chiefs and the Bengals, I think there's a lot of hatred, and I don't think there's a lot of respect. I don't think Jamar Chase respects the Bengals. I don't think a number of Chiefs players respects the Bengals, or Jamar Chase respects the Chiefs, excuse me. I don't think that these two teams went out to midfield and shook hands and said, well, that was a lot of fun. Now, you guys fought your tails off, and you should be proud of it. I don't think anybody on the Bengals sideline wants to hear that, because the Chiefs are the one at the end of the day that grabbed the W. Now they're 2-0, and the Bengals are 0-2. Harrison Butker kicks the game-winning field goal today as the Chiefs take down Cincinnati 26-25. A little bit of box score action here. Patrick Mahomes today, 18 for 25, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, only threw for 151 yards. On the ground, the Chiefs, for the most part, were pretty effective. Isaiah Pacheco averaged 4.7 on the ground, 90 yards on 19 carries. Also had 29 yards on 4 carries for Patrick Mahomes in the receiving game. Rashee Rice, the difference maker in this one. You'll hear some of that audio a little bit later on in his touchdown grab, and he was involved on that 4th and 16 pass play in which the Cincinnati Bengals interfered. And complain all you want. I know that this is a Chiefs postgame show, a red and gold postgame show. That's about as blatant as it can get. And to be honest, what can you do in a spot like that? If you don't interfere, I think Rashee Rice high points the ball. He comes down with it, and it's 1st and 10, and you are absolutely within field goal range. But throwing to Rashee Rice in that spot, what is a good part about that is you go back to last year, a couple of those moments. I think of that Eagles game when you threw it to Justin Watson, I believe, on that 4th and miles to extend the game. And Justin Watson can't come down with it. I think it might have been the Packers game. You're throwing up for MVS, and he was interfered with, but the ball didn't get caught. It wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a first down. And I'm not saying, Rashee Rice did everything possible on that play, and he was the reason that the Bengals interfered with it. But it feels good to throw to a guy in that spot that either he's getting interfered with or he's probably coming down with it. I can't say last year you had that confidence. In fact, I know you didn't have that confidence when the ball was just thrown up for grabs. Give him a chance here. And the Chiefs are very fortunate in the spot. The Bengals get there a little bit early, and you move the chains, and you're already in field goal range. And that last drive, I think the frustrating part about it before the PI was that they only needed to go 10, 15 yards, at least to give Harrison Butker a chance. Hell, they were sending him out there, whether they were going to actually kick it or not, but for what, 68 yards? I mean, just for a last-second chance, I think they would have set Harrison Butker out there for 68 to 70 yards. So you didn't need that much, but the drive was going backwards. And you get that pass interference call. It works out in your favor. 1st and 10, you line up Harrison Butker for the game-winning field goal after a couple handoffs to Carson Steele, who did have a turnover today, but he didn't turn it over in the most crucial moment. Chiefs get the win. They're now 2-0 on the season after wins against the Ravens and the Bengals. As soon as Dylan gets this next caller on the line, we are going to kick things off with our first caller of the day, and we are going to send it off to Jerry. Jerry, what's on your mind?
Oh, hey, that was a great game. I was never in doubt. You would think I'm lying, but no, I just wanted to see how it was going to unfold into a win that we got. The ability for this team to adapt and overcome, it's just going to be wild. I really can't see them losing to anybody in the NFL at all, and that would be really neat to see something like that happen. The thing is the Ravens being 0-2, they face the Chiefs and the Raiders. I hope that Denver and Chargers have success against them too, because that's going to end up being 4 losses on the year. They face Dallas next week, and I'm hoping that Dallas does something good against them. That's 5 losses for Lamar Jackson, and I hope that puts to bed anything about him for a little bit. But who knows what's going to happen. I'm just happy the Chiefs did what they did. And Smarty Connor, isn't he a badass?
Absolutely.
I'll let you go.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Jerry. And, yeah, I think you can scoreboard watch at any point in time this season. I mean, if you want to watch the Ravens game, the Bengals game, and see where they're stacked up, because right now both those teams are 0-2. And Kansas City sits at 2-0. It's great for the AFC playoff picture, and you have 2 wins over those teams. So you got the tiebreaker when it all comes to an end at the end of December, or actually in January. You get to that point in the season, you don't need to worry about if you and the Ravens are what would that be, 11-6? Or if you are 12-5, you don't need to worry about it. You have the tiebreaker over them. And that was very important to get those first 2 games out of the way. Look, it was ugly. I'm not going to sit here and say you should feel really confident. I know, Jerry, that you said I don't think they'll lose again, but we know there's going to come a point in time when that play doesn't happen at the end, right, where it's 4th and 16 and either Patrick Mahomes is sacked or there is no flag on the play. But you also have to think there's not going to be many games this season in which Patrick Mahomes plays like that. Both the interceptions he had today were very uncharacteristic. Those 2 turnovers, I can't defend. I can't blame it on route running. I can't blame it on a pass interference that wasn't called. There was a few in the game. It's a part of it, though. No, the first one he had, I can't recall too many bad interceptions like that. And then the one that he was trying to get to Worthy, and it was Britt Taylor, right, that had the unbelievable Odell Beckham Jr.-like interception. You tip your cap there. The ball wasn't well thrown, and they didn't need to run a play in that spot. But we know that in the NFL, winning ugly still counts the same as winning in dominant fashion. If the Chiefs went out today and won 40-7, it's still 2-0. Now, I don't think you're feeling as, let's say, uneasy about certain parts of this team, but we shouldn't be worrying about what this team looks like in week 2, at least not in my case. I mean, you go back to last year, Christmas Day, they arguably had their worst game of the year, that close to the end of the season, and lost to a team that was much worse than what Cincinnati was today. It's Aiden O'Connell at quarterback and Joe Burrow today. So you find a way to beat Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow back-to-back weeks. I understand the Ravens and the Bengals are both 0-2, but you contributed to 50% of those losses in back-to-back weeks. There's going to come a point in time when you have a bad game like this and the defense doesn't do enough or they don't get a scoop and score. As Jerry brought up with Chamari Connor, it's a big play. Defensive line getting after it when it mattered most, and also Chamari Connor with that DB blitz. I'll tip my cap to Steve Spagnuolo there, but he still found a way to come in like a heat-seeking missile, got the ball back to Kansas City. That's eventually what set up the game-winning field goal for Harrison Butker. It was an ugly win, but a win's a win. And in the NFL, you don't apologize for that. Now, the Chiefs are gunning for home field. They don't want to have to go on the road again. They want to be able to take the top spot in the AFC. A big part in doing that was taking care of business at home against Cincinnati and against Baltimore. You know, you lose today and you're 1-1, I think I would have had a different tune. I don't think that I am sitting here as upbeat, or standing here, I should say, as upbeat about that game. And it always stings to lose one to a team like the Bengals because we know about that rivalry, the hatred in that rivalry, the trash talk that would have happened. And believe me, I'm sure there's going to be some sound bites here in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And when you're listening here to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, again brought to you by Boda Box Wine, we're going to have plenty of audio tonight. You're going to hear from Mahomes. You're going to hear from Andy Reid. You're going to hear from a couple of players. I'd imagine we'll hear at some point from Chamari Connor, maybe Chris Jones. So we're going to have you covered here over the next 2.5 hours. We're going to go back to the phone lines real quick and talk with Kyle. Kyle, what's on your mind after a narrow win for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes, sir. I got 2 points I want to make. One is do not make the refs part of the game. And we saw that big play by Kelsey that was called back, and that was a really bad missed call by the refs. I don't know how you miss 2 guys jumping off sides there, and then you call a holding call. I thought that was really bad, but that's why you don't make the refs part of the game, and it comes down to them. However, the Chiefs turned the ball over 3 times today, and I thought that was going to hurt us because usually when you turn the ball three times, usually I think 90% of the time, I don't know what the percentage is, but most of the time you lose. But as long as you got Patrick Mahomes, it's a different story. But here's my second point is I don't just watching the first 2 games, and I'll listen off the air, but I have a question for you. I don't think our defense is as good as it once was last year. I think our defensive line is fine because we got the Joe Burrow, But I want your thoughts on our secondary. Is it not as good as it was last year? I'll listen off the air. But thank you so much for taking my call. And by the way, congratulations on taking the post-game spot this year. I pray that you will do great. And the 810 guys are very well. So I can't think you got 810 enough because you guys are entertainers. And I appreciate everything you guys do on the show, guys. So keep it up this year. But but back to my question: is the secondary concern?
Yeah, appreciate the kind words and the call, Kyle. And I do think this defense is going to get better. I think we've seen in the past that Steve Spagnuolo's defense usually starts to come on a little bit in Week 8, Week 9, Week 10. And I have to factor in a few things here about this defense. Okay, they're 2 games into the regular season, and it's their first 2 games without L'Jarius Sneed. And we know he's not coming back because he plays for Tennessee. You also have to factor in they don't have Charles Omenihu out there. So you're asking some guys to step up in spots that they really haven't had to step into before. Now, Mike Dana has before. Mike Dana has started up front. Now, I think Turk Wharton's getting more run than maybe he ever has in his NFL career. You still have Chris Jones out there. And the secondary, they're going to have their issues from time to time. And today, I thought for the most part, they did great on the receiving corps. They were able to shut down Jamar Chase and he didn't have one of those incredible performances like he usually does against the Chiefs. It was just the tight ends that seemed to have quite a day, and that's more so on the Chiefs linebacking core than anything. I think a lot's going to get ironed out. This defense is going to get better. Is it as good as last year? I don't really know on that. We are going to cut away real quick and hear from Tracy Wolfson in her interview with Patrick Mahomes after the game.
Always seems to come down to a bunker field goal when these two teams are playing. What is it about Cincinnati that always gives you guys such a tough game?
Yeah, I mean, they're well coached. They play hard. They have a lot of great players. Obviously, we made too many mistakes today. Our defense picked us up there in the fourth quarter, and then we got it to Harrison, man, and he knocks it through. So we got a lot to learn from, but I'm glad we got a win, and we're going to learn from it that way.
Talk about the defense, that sack that was able to give you the ball back.
Yeah, they come up big. They've been doing it for the last few years, and we got to play to them. We put them in a lot of bad positions today, but we're going to get better. We'll get better, and it's early in the season.
Right after Cincinnati scored, you said to your guys on the sideline, if we get the ball back, we're going to win this thing. Where does that confidence always come with you?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in these situations before, and we have full confidence. No matter how the game's going, we're going to do enough to win, and that's what we did today. But like I said, we're going to have to learn from this because we didn't play our best football on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to get better.
Enjoy the win.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was Patrick Mahomes with Tracy Wolfson after the game. I think you heard repeatedly there that we made too many mistakes. I mean, the interception in the first half, it's inexcusable, especially from a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He would tell you that. The interception that Cam Taylor-Britt had, which I do got to say this, he got burned by Rashee Rice in the first half. It was arguably one of Patrick Mahomes' best thrown balls of his entire career. I'm trying not to be a prisoner of the moment and have that recency bias. You can't place a ball better than that. So he gets torched on that play after talking a little trash this week, mainly about Worthy. But then he has one of the most impressive interceptions I've seen in quite some time. And it was Patrick Mahomes testing him when he really didn't need to be tested. Trying to go to Worthy in a spot like that, maybe because he thought he was going to get an extra step on him. It's a bad decision there. So you hear that from Patrick Mahomes in his postgame interview with Tracy Wolfson. That made too many mistakes. What's it about the Bengals? Well, we made too many mistakes today. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to be celebrating this game wildly just because they beat the Bengals. I think they know they can't do that too many times this season. They just simply can't. I would probably say you can't play like that on the road next week against Atlanta just because it's a different environment. You're not playing at home. You can't come out flat. You can't come out making decisions like that. And Patrick Mahomes, look, he's a multiple-time MVP winner. He's a multiple-time Super Bowl champion. We're not going to get too caught up on him taking chances there when he shouldn't have. He was pressing a little bit. He didn't have a great game. That was arguably his worst performance against the Bengals in his career, but you come out a winner. As I said, you're stacking W's. You're stacking wins. You beat 2 really good teams in the AFC North, and now you don't have to worry about them later on in November or December if you are still, holding off teams for that number 1 spot, or you're chasing that number 1 spot. You're not going to have to worry about some game late on in the season when you have to go to Cincinnati or go to Baltimore and beat that team. Not that I don't think you shouldn't have confidence, but beating them in September, it's good that you can just take care of that right away. We'll get to one more caller here before we hit a break. Let's go to Gary. He's been on the phone line for quite some time. Gary, what's going on?
Not much. After watching that game today, there's a lot of questions and not enough answers. Particularly, you've got a left tackle who he might be athletic, he might be nimble, but he's not mean enough for the position. And you look at the schedule coming up, you've got Judon next week. Then the next week you've got Bosa. The next week you get Cam Jordan. The next week after the bye is Nick Bosa, and then Max Crosby. He's gonna get Mahomes killed, and you can't keep playing the guy. And there's nobody else to play. Morris isn't any better. They're too soft at the tackle position, and it's not going to change. And he's not the future at the position. He can't even be average. And they need more out of him as a second-round draft pick than what they're getting. I know he's a rookie, but he's just not mean enough. And defensively, the problem's not the secondary; it's the middle. It's your linebackers that can't cover anybody. Nick Bolton just runs around out there. He might make a play here and there, but he doesn't seem to want to do anything. He just runs around, can't cover anybody. Tight ends running free in the middle of the field, having their way with the Chiefs' defense, and they're going to have to learn to combat that because they're going to start seeing a lot of 12 personnel, and I don't think they can defend that. And the pass rush has got to get better. They got to start getting home more. The biggest play in the game today, though, was the Matt Araiza punt on the last drive Cincinnati had where he pinned him back. That was probably the biggest play of this ballgame today, pinning him back like that. So they didn't have a short field to work with. They only had to go in 30 or 40 yards to get a field goal, pinning them back inside the 20 like that. So let's give Matt Araiza some credit on that. That was probably one of the biggest plays of the game today. I'll hang up and listen. Great show.
Hey, appreciate the call, Gary. And yeah, we are going to be talking about Kingsley Suamataia in this one. He got benched. Okay, there's no way to sugarcoat it. He did not play well today. And he got beaten up by Trey Hendrickson. Now, we have to acknowledge Trey Hendrickson is a very good edge rusher in the NFL. There's also a lot of good edge rushers in the NFL. And as I just said about the poor decision-making, you can't have too many games like that on your schedule. You can't try to get away with 3 turnovers. Right? You can't rely on a scoop and score to beat your good teams. And we know that the Chiefs are not a mediocre team that are just barely getting away with miracle plays to win. But I do believe in this. The Chiefs invested a pick into Kingsley Suamataia, and he won the job out of camp. And even as you brought up, Gary, there's nobody behind him. I mean, yeah, Wanya Morris can come in there, but Wanya Morris had a brutal penalty on that 4th and 6 play that backed up the Chiefs to 4th and 16. And the Chiefs had converted on that 4th and 6. And then Wanya Morris has the penalty. It's called back 4th and 16. You get the pass interference call and you move into Bengals territory. I will say I feel uneasy about the left tackle position because we knew this going into the year. It was a really an experiment, we'll call it that. They chose not to bring back Donovan Smith because they needed to figure out if they could have the left tackle of the future on their roster right now. They didn't go out there and spend a lot of money to bring in somebody else. They invested a pick in Suamataia, and Wanya Morris couldn't beat him out in camp, mainly because he wasn't healthy. But that almost felt like a welcome to the league, rookie. That felt like a if you're not ready to go next week, you could find yourself back on the bench again. And he's so young, and he is raw. But I do think the potential's there. And we may take a game like this and say you can't have him out there because the most important thing on the field is Patrick Mahomes for that offense. You got to be able to protect Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs from time to time tried to help him out with some chip blocks. But still, Patrick Mahomes couldn't sit there comfortably. He couldn't drop back as much as he liked to. He couldn't move up in the pocket. He was getting swarmed. And it really was only from the left side. So I do believe you have to run Kingsley Suamataia back out there next week because you can't abandon him just 2 games into the season. This was a bad outing, and they'll use this as a teaching moment. There's a lot of coaches on that staff that can help out a guy like Kingsley Suamataia, but this is the NFL. And that's what we saw today. Look, the game's coming down to the wire. We can't trust you out on the field there. We're going to put in Wanya Morris, and he may not do better, but it kind of felt like he couldn't do worse in that moment. He's young. He's a rookie. But the reality is, and the tough reality is, he's got a big job on the field. He's not being eased into this. This is a thrown into the fire situation. You are the left tackle for a 2-time defending Super Bowl champion team with a Hall of Fame quarterback behind you. You can't have, in my opinion, you can't have another game like that the rest of the way. And that goes to show you just how much he was dominated today. Trey Hendrickson, every single snap, was going around him, was going through him, was overpowering him, and if he wasn't getting to Patrick Mahomes, he was getting held. There was a penalty on the play. Now, I like Kingsley Suamataia a lot. I think he grows from this. I think there's a lot of talent there. But that was an eye-opener today. And I think it was an eye-opener to the Chiefs sideline where they had to pull him and put Wanya Morris in. And I think you should have confidence in him moving forward because the Chiefs had confidence in him through training camp. There really wasn't that much of a battle. He came in there. He was a rookie draft pick. He was young. They gave him the job. And yes, this was his first really, really big test going up against one of the top edge rushers in the league. And it didn't go well today. But you got to get back up on the horse. I do not envision Andy Reid. I do not envision anybody on the offensive line room going, we need to get him out of there. We can't start him next week. Because I still believe Kingsley Suamataia is better than Wanya Morris. He is a better option, and he's a rookie. He's going to have to grow from this. He is very nimble. He's athletic. He's physical. And today, he just went up against a guy who's got a lot of years of experience. He's very seasoned, and he can do that to an inexperienced tackle. But the Chiefs still get the win, despite bad play from left tackle today. They win at the buzzer. Harrison Butker nailing a 50-plus yard field goal to take down the Bengals. The Chiefs move to 2-0 on the season. Up next, Sunday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons. We'll take our first break of the show. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. against the Cincinnati Bengals is our play of the game, brought to you by Central Bank of the Midwest. And you are tuned in to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. I don't know if there is another kicker that comes close at this point in time that is more automatic in moments like that. It used to be Justin Tucker, but I don't know if anybody had the chance to watch a little bit of that Ravens-Raiders game today, which I imagine you did. If you were here locally, that was the CBS game before the Kansas City Chiefs. But Harrison Butker, Justin Tucker has struggled a little bit from 50-plus yards, at least of late, it feels like. Harrison Butker, not so much. No, that's about as pure as it gets. 51 yards out, game on the line, you miss, you lose, you make it, you win. It's that simple. They had lined him up, and as I brought up in the opening segment, I don't know how many teams can orchestrate a final play like that. Just running the ball and kind of centering it up where he's 51 yards away. I get it at 25 yards, 30 yards, 35 yards. Let's just center him up. Now, the Chiefs really couldn't run any other play. You didn't want to kneel it because you did want to get a couple extra yards there. They might have moved it from a 53, 54-yard field goal to 51. But, hell, that thing was good from 65. Dead on, straight down the middle, and hit the back net. He never looks nervous. You want him in that spot 10 out of 10 times, and every other team in the NFL would say the exact same thing. Evan McPherson for Cincinnati, he's been fantastic in his career. More importantly, he's been fantastic against the Chiefs. He did miss that extra point today, but I think even Bengals fans would tell you, at the game on the line, I think I would take Harrison Butker there. Because of the power in the leg, the accuracy. I mean, you're at midfield, you might be in field goal range. As I said, they put him out there for a 68-yard field goal right before the end of the first half. Were they going to actually kick it or not? I don't know, but he still went out there. And I would have loved to see it. I think he can make it from 68. I really do. Today, 51 yards feels like a chip shot for him. It feels like it's 20 yards. Every single time he's in a spot like that, he nails it. And it goes all the way back, in my opinion, not to that debut game he had against Washington where he had the game winner. I'll never forget that time in the COVID year playing the Chargers in L.A. And he had to kick 3 in a row, wasn't it? Because the Chargers kept calling timeouts from 54 yards. Straight on, straight on, straight on. Didn't matter. And at that point in time, I said, I'm not even nervous when he goes out there. I would love to sit here and say that I was biting my nails off and, crippled over on that final kick. I really didn't have any doubts that was going through the uprights. I had full confidence Harrison Butker was going to be able to put it through, and he did. As the Chiefs win in the final seconds, they come back and beat the Cincinnati Bengals 26-25. They move to 2-0 on the season. Up next, the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. We've been keeping Travis on the line a little bit too long. Travis, what's going on?
Guys, how's it going?
Pretty good over here.
Thanks for taking the call. So I just want to put some perspective on this. I mean, the Chiefs did everything they could to throw this game away.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes threw for 150 yards, 2 interceptions. I'm pretty sure the Bengals were -2 in turnovers. They won the time of possession, and the Chiefs still won. We did this song and dance last year with the receivers and how bad the offense was. We won a Super Bowl. This team does not play. This team does not care about September, October, November. This team cares about December, January, February. Everybody just take a deep breath. As long as we're, like you said, we're banking these wins. Let's get the wins, and this team is going to get better. I am a little concerned, though. For whatever reason, the Bengals are just kind of like kryptonite for this team. Andy Reid just gets outcoached against Zach Taylor almost every single time they play. I don't understand it. I don't know why he goes so conservative. You went for it early on 4th down, you got it, and then 4th and 1 from the 1, you kicked a field goal. I was confused by that decision. Ultimately, it almost came back to haunt them. I think Pat is uncomfortable because I don't think it's just the tackles that are playing bad. On multiple occasions, when Kingsley needed help, Tooney was standing there in wide open space with no one to block, not doing anything. Pacheco looked like he was supposed to chip, and he would just kind of run by him. So I think there are some things that can be cleaned up, but I don't think the offense as a whole has played good really last week or this week. I mean, they played okay, but they left so many points in the red zone last week. I just think you're going to see a lot of what we saw last year until mid-season, and then I think you'll see them heat up a little bit. So that's all I got. Everybody take a deep breath. We got the best team in the NFL. It'll get better. Just relax. Thanks, man.
Absolutely, and thanks for your patience, Travis, because lots of great points there about the team winning ugly today. It still counts the same as winning in dominant fashion. Now, Dylan does tell me that we got Harrison Butker coming up here to the podium, so let's listen live now. And that was Harrison Butker after his 51-yard game-winning field goal against the Cincinnati Bengals at Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead Stadium. Look, I just don't think that there is any nerves running through him at all in a moment like that. We'll see if there were any nerves running through Jamari Connor's mind on that final defensive possession the Chiefs had.
You know, what's the conversation like amongst you guys on defense about getting back on track for the team?
Yeah, just like you said, you know, they got the momentum. We got to go take it back. They made a play. We got to go make a play. We got to match it. We got to get a turnover. So, yeah.
On that blitz, you know, you mentioned you don't want to miss the layup, right? You're coming back there and shooting through, is it slowing down for you? Is it speeding up? When you get there, Joe Burrow, bigger than most people kind of think. You just got to get down.
Yeah, you know, usually you want to slow down, get your feet under you, and, you know, so to make sure you don't miss the tackle. But in that situation, I just tried to hit it as fast as I could. So.
Are you getting used more in blitzes? I know there was another one you lined up on the right side earlier in the game. Is Spags using you a lot more in blitz situations, and why do you think that is?
You know, Coach Spags always dials up the defense. I feel like he's been using me as a blitz guy since I got here. So, you know, Coach Spags dials it up, and we go play the call.
Are you more comfortable doing it this year, maybe, after, you know, another offseason to learn the system?
Yeah, definitely more comfortable being out there, for sure.
How special is it to have, you know, everybody's going to remember the touchdown, the sack setup, when you just go do it, Harrison, make you feel even better.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Jamari.
Thank you.
That was Jamari Connor after probably the best game of his career today. Now, one of them, he was just in the right place at the right time. The scoop and score, which you'll hear the audio of that a little bit later on in today's show. But also, I think had one of the biggest and monumental plays on defense today in that DB blitz that Steve Spagnuolo dialed up the last defensive possession the Chiefs had. If Joe Burrow and the Bengals convert that, which as good as the tight ends were all day long, kind of felt like they were going to have a catch and run of 13 or 14 in a spot like that, and the Chiefs still would have had 3 timeouts, but the clock would have been ticking. And you probably needed one more first down if you're Cincinnati, and you would have been able to run out the rest of the clock there. Before we do hit break, want to get Dan on the line here. Dan, apologize for keeping you waiting so long, but what's on your mind?
Hey, it's okay, Matt. How you doing? Boy, that was a great win by the Chiefs. It wasn't pretty bad. Hey, like you said, a win's a win's a win. The 44-yard touchdown pass to Rashid Rice was big, and defensive about Jamari Connor. Yeah, you know, Burrow did get that fumble. It was out, you know. Then Jamar Chase, we love to see him get thrown in the game. I don't know what he's arguing about. I don't think that was no horse collar tackle, you know. Anyway, some things have to get cleaned up. Let's take care of the talk is next Sunday night. Take care of yourself, Matt.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think with the Jamar Chase moment of getting tackled by Trent McDuffie and then getting all up in the official's face, and they're going back and forth. He argues a little bit too long, and then he's penalized. Sounds like from what the sideline was saying, Jamar Chase thought it was a hip drop tackle, which now is illegal in the NFL. I do not believe it was a hip drop tackle, but in the moment, Jamar Chase thought it was, thought there should have been a little additional yardage added on to that catch, would have given the Bengals a first down there. Wasn't called, gets upset, can't argue that long. At least that's what the broadcast was saying on CBS about Jamar Chase getting penalized. But thanks for the call there, Dan. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll answer some more phone calls and get to some more audio as well. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. frozen custard. Enjoy a treat and give to a great cause. The 87 Concrete, crafted by Travis Kelce himself, consists of vanilla frozen custard, Oreo, cookie dough, and cream caramel. A portion of the proceeds go to support Travis Kelce's 87 and Running Foundation. Top your day with a smile at Andy's. And you are tuned in to the Red and Gold Post-Game Show, brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We do have a little bit of bad news to go over here. And before we jump back on the phone lines here, I want to get this report out there because it's coming to me now. We'll hear from Andy Reid a little bit later on, who will speak on this matter. But this comes from Jeff Darlington of ESPN. Andy Reid says Isaiah Pacheco is getting tests and x-rays on his ankle, and he doesn't know the extent. Not to play doctor here, but to chill out fantasy managers, I interviewed Pacheco on the field after the game, and I got 0 sense he's dealing with anything serious. We will see. But then he also followed that tweet up. And this is Jeff Darlington again from ESPN. He said, in a not-so-great update, Pacheco is leaving the stadium on crutches and a walking boot, and so Monday's tests become all the more important. If you can recall, on that final drive of the game, he got tackled awkwardly. We've seen Isaiah Pacheco get tackled awkwardly before, but this time he hobbles off the field. He was down on the sideline, and they were looking at his ankle. Now we get the word from Jeff Darlington that Pacheco was leaving the stadium on crutches and in a walking boot. Andy Reid will be talking about that a little bit later on in his post-game audio. But the tests will be happening tomorrow, so we'll get better clarity there on the injury extent for Isaiah Pacheco. Let's hop back on the phone lines. Apologies, Paul, for keeping you waiting for the pretty much first part of the hour of today's show. But what do you got to say after the Chiefs' narrow win over the Bengals?
Hey, okay, a couple points. I'd like to make is the NFL is a league of parity. 3 playoff teams couldn't hold court: Baltimore, Detroit, and Dallas. And then San Francisco, the Super Bowl favorite, got rolled by a quarterback that sees ghosts. So take the win. Let's move on next week. My second point is Harrison Butker. All these people, when he went up to Benedictine, Kansas City Star, they all wanted Clark Hunt to cut him, send him out of town, get him out of here. The NFL is a man sport. It's a performance-oriented business. It's not about your feelings. Thank goodness we kept that man because he's the best damn kicker in the league, and he's performance-oriented.
Well, thanks for the phone call, Paul, and I think everybody leaving Arrowhead Stadium today is glad that Harrison Butker is the kicker of the Kansas City Chiefs, because so many times in his career, he's come up in a spot like that. Not just in September regular season games, and we had a caller a little bit early on say, the Chiefs are not about playing for wins in September, and that's not to say they don't care about September, but we all know when it matters. You don't hang banners for beating the Bengals in Week 2. But the cool part about that is I think Harrison Butker's mentality is the exact same in Week 2 in September as it is in the AFC Championship game with the game on the line. I think he feels the same amount of nerves, which is 0. I think he goes out there and he just shuts everything else out. Was absolutely nails today. And if you were in attendance, if you're watching at a bar, you're watching from the comforts of your own home, I don't know why you'd have any doubts about Harrison Butker going out there from 51. It's like 30 yards for him. In fact, I think there was a point in time in Harrison Butker's career where you had less confidence for him when he was inside 40 yards. Or maybe it was inside of 50. There was that weird stretch where he was missing kicks where they seemed like chip shots, but when it was 50-plus, automatic. And that kick would be good from 60, 65, 70 yards. Today, that was right down the middle, hit about the midway part of the net. So, yeah, I would have loved to see what that actually would have been good from with the estimated distance there. But, yeah, a lot of people leaving the stadium today, I think, are pretty satisfied that Harrison Butker is still the kicker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go to G. G, you are on the Red and Gold postgame show.
Hey, what up, Lot G? Lot JG here, buddy. Hey.
How's it going, man?
Good. You?
Fantastic over here.
All right. Couple points. A little disappointed on the 4th and 1 when we just sat there and settled for a field goal. You got the best player on the planet, and you're going to settle for that. You didn't trust our defense.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, Bucker don't have ice in his veins. He's got El Bandito. He's a smooth criminal.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it, G. And thanks so much for your call, man, because I think that this team, now with the postseason experience they have, they look at games like this, and they understand winning tiebreakers, beating teams like that, beating rivals like that, it's important. But these guys all got different mentalities now. They've got the El Bandito in their veins, right? Harrison Butker, certainly. We know Patrick Mahomes does. We know Travis Kelce does. Rashee Rice is now looking like one of those guys that always seems to produce in big-time games. But there's going to be bigger games down the stretch here. And one part that we haven't touched on yet, which I do plan to, and a little bit more to an extent in the second hour of the Red and Gold postgame show, Travis Kelce's been, let's just call it non-existent in the first two games. I think he had one catch for 5 yards today. He was a part of a big play on one of those final drives, but it was called back due to another hold by Kingsley Suamataia. But along with winning ugly, they have won without their best pass catcher, the security blanket for Patrick Mahomes. And I don't believe this is a sign of him being forced out of the league because of age, right? That it's finally caught up to him. I don't believe that to be the case. I think there is more of an emphasis on defending Travis Kelce, and in the past, it didn't matter if you put an emphasis on it. He was going to get his. And I don't think we're used to Travis Kelce having performances like this back-to-back games, especially against opponents like this. I'm not too worried just yet, but it is something that has caught my attention. That also makes those wins all the better because you've had to rely on different guys. You gave the ball to Isaiah Pacheco 19 times today. Now, we'll see the extent of his injury. But this team knows how to deal with adversity. They know how to deal with guys that aren't going to be out there, that go through injuries, that are going to be gone a couple of weeks. They had the bad news this week that Hollywood Brown is likely going to miss the entire regular season. If not that, the majority of the regular season. You're hoping that he can get back for the postseason, but you're not going to have him anytime in the near future. So there's that adversity you deal with. Then you deal with adversity today, and Pacheco going down in that final drive, Travis Kelce being a non-factor. You find a way to win. Patrick Mahomes throwing 2 interceptions. Carson Steele fumbling the ball, 3 turnovers right there. But you beat a good team. You beat a team that I still think has a very good chance of making the postseason. The funny part about this all is the Chiefs don't need to beat those teams to better their psyche, to give them confidence. They're a confident group. They know even if they snuck into the postseason at 9-8, they'd have confidence they could get to the Super Bowl and win it for that matter. That's not the goal for this year. You don't want to go 9-8. You want to dominate your division. You want to get out to a 6-0 record, a cushy record before you take on the 49ers, which is an NFC game, so it's not really going to matter as much as you may think it does. But if you take care of business next week against Atlanta, against the Chargers the week after that, and you line up that game, you feel good about that start. Whereas last year, there were moments where you question, do they have the firepower? They lost in week 1. They struggled offensively for the majority of that year. You don't want to have those doubts in your mind. You really, really don't. But after these 2 games, I think it's thrust other guys into the spotlight that have to show up. We got to see Worthy show up in a spot like that last Thursday. Not so much today, but Rashee Rice followed up his really good week 1 performance with a really good week 2 performance. You're having to go to Jared Wiley in the fourth quarter. He had that 1 catch. You have to go to Noah Gray in certain spots. You have to throw the ball to Samaje Perine. You got to use Carson Steele. You got to put faith in some of these guys. The good thing is you have number 15. That's always a given. But you're winning against good teams when your number 1 pass-catching option is non-existent. And we know he's going to have one of those performances here in the next few weeks where he goes 8 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. We know that's coming. It's early on in the year. You're going to have some issues. You're going to have some mishaps. I don't think Travis Kelce's played poorly. He just hasn't had the typical Travis Kelce performances. But I do expect that to get better. But that's something mainly me personally, I haven't talked about enough on the Red and Gold postgame show. We haven't mentioned Travis Kelce's name a lot. Not in the last show, not in today's show, really until an hour in. but you find a way to get it done. You stack another W. You're 2-0. You got the tiebreaker over Baltimore, and you got the tiebreaker over Cincinnati. One more phone call I want to get to is Ryan. Ryan, you're on the Red and Gold postgame show.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Jack. That was a game that I don't think we were supposed to win, and we did. So 2-0 after a tough road start. Turnovers, obviously, can't have them. The throw to Rice, touchdown, that reminded me of 2019 Mahomes, which was exciting. I think he's probably a little pressing a little bit because they want to change the offense, and they're still trying to smooth things out. And nothing's settled yet, but we're 2-0, and we got Mahomes. And Kelsey maybe, Donnie maybe not, but like whenever he does show up, we just got more weapons now. It is different. Pacheco, hopefully he comes back. Looked like he was jumping up and down at the end of the game, so hopefully he didn't hurt himself on that. But I don't know. I think it looks good, Jack. Thanks, guys.
Hey, appreciate the phone call, Ryan. Appreciate the optimism because this team is 2-0, and they were two wins that do feel a little bit different. I don't want to call the Baltimore win ugly because I thought they played well for the majority of that game. It was an ugly finish, but it was a win. Today was winning ugly. Patrick Mahomes did not play well. The offensive line didn't really play well. The defense struggled to tackle a little bit. Those are all things we're going to get into throughout the show tonight. I do want to have an update here again before we hit a quick break. This comes from Jesse Newell, who, of course, covers the Kansas City Chiefs for the KC Star. He said Pacheco was emotional in the locker room, towel over his head with watery eyes. Andy Reid came over to wrap his arm around him before his own podium interview. Pacheco was still walking in the locker room, so we'll see what the testing shows this week. So back-to-back updates that don't give you much optimism on Isaiah Pacheco. If you missed it a little bit earlier, Jeff Darlington of ESPN reported that Pacheco was leaving the stadium on crutches and was in a walking boot, so Monday's tests become all the more important. And as I just brought up with Jesse Newell there, Isaiah Pacheco was pretty emotional in the locker room. And this does become a major talking point for the upcoming week. And you already had a weakened running back room. Remember, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not on the active roster at this point in time. Carson Steele is an undrafted free agent rookie. He's the number 2 running back right now. Samaje Perine just joined this team a few weeks ago. So are you going into Sunday Night Football with Carson Steele as your number 1 running back? You probably have to go and pick somebody up off a practice squad through free agency. Maybe I should pump the brakes here and wait till we get more confirmation on Monday after these tests. But Isaiah Pacheco on crutches, in a walking boot, emotional in the locker room, those are things that don't really add up well to me. And not that I'm confused, it's that I don't know how you look at that and say something positive on it. If anything, you hope it's just a minor setback there. And I would not be doing my job if I was speculating on how long he'd be out without having any knowledge of the severity of this injury. But you just don't get a good gut feeling right now. So that's the latest on Isaiah Pacheco. We are going to hear from Andy Reid a little bit later on in the show on the Red and Gold postgame show, which again is brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We'll take a quick break, come back, and hopefully hear from Andy Reid. If not, we'll probably go over the Isaiah Pacheco injury and what we might be able to do with the current in-house group, how we can evaluate the running back room. Not quite speculating, but going over Carson Steele, his performance today, going over Samaje Perine, the lack of snaps he got today. We'll talk about that all coming up next and probably hear from Andy Reid. You're listening to the Red and Gold postgame show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Defensive play of the game is only going to go to Jamari Conner. I could give it to maybe Chris Jones with the pressure. Mike Dana was able to force the ball out, but Jamari Conner, right place, right time with the scoop and score. And kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box is the premium boxed wine that wins with wine critics. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. And sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. Well, we do have the chance to swing things over to Andy Reid, who had thoughts, of course, on the Chiefs' 26-25 win. But more importantly, and what has become the theme of this show, is the health of Isaiah Pacheco, who was leaving Arrowhead Stadium in a walking boot and on crutches. And per Jesse Newell of the Kansas City Star, very emotional in the locker room. And all three of those things combined, it doesn't seem too good. But it's not my job to speculate without knowing more of the tests, which will be happening on Monday. But Andy Reid did have the chance to talk about Isaiah Pacheco, had the chance to talk about Harrison Butker in this game, the game-winning kick, of course, from 51 yards, Patrick Mahomes and his performance. And I think one thing that we will dive into a little bit with Matt Derrick later on in tonight's show, Kingsley Suamataia getting benched in the fourth quarter for Wanya Morris, was getting absolutely eaten up by Trey Hendrickson. But enough about me saying what Andy Reid talked about. Why don't we hear from Andy Reid himself? Here is the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought it was interesting that he said some of our best plays tonight were all called back, and it felt like turnovers was the theme in this game. You've got 2 interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. You've got the Carson Steele fumble, but penalties, and more specifically penalties of the offensive line, is what made this game 26-25. This was a Bengals team that I didn't take a lot away from their performance against the Patriots. Felt like a little bit of a trap game, even though it's a home opener in week 1 in the NFL season. But you have to imagine they were looking ahead a little bit. They had the distraction of Jamar Chase in the contract in the offseason and through training camp. T. Higgins wasn't available. He wasn't available again today. But they are expecting him, I think back next week is what they were saying on the television broadcast right before kickoff. But, yeah, I think that the penalties in this game negated a lot of yards for Kansas City. It took away the flow of this offense. I think more so than the turnovers. I mean, the turnovers halts everything, and you flip the ball over. But, man, some of the big runs, some of the big plays to Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice called back because of either a hold or because of illegal hands of the face. And maybe it's dumb to say that in the first place because maybe that throw never happens if Kingsley Suamataia doesn't hold. Or maybe that fourth down play to Rice doesn't happen if Wanya Morris doesn't put his paws on Trey Hendrickson's face. No, maybe you can't even see Rashee Rice in that spot because Hendrickson's already there in the backfield, in the pocket, and bringing Patrick Mahomes down. So it might be dumb to argue about, well, it took away big plays. Well, maybe that big play never happens if the penalty doesn't occur. So I can see that side of it as well. But the big takeaway from today, as we've said all show long, Harrison Butker having ice in his veins, or as one of our callers said, El Bandito in his veins, the tequila in his veins, because he's one bad dude with the 51-yard game-winning field goal. Here is what Big Red had to make of that kick.
I was like, I feel more comfortable around the 32, so, and in. But he could have made it. Yeah. I normally when you're at the 35, 40, somewhere in that area, you're pretty confident that he's gonna drill it.
We did hear from Harrison Butker a little bit earlier on in the show, and he said that he had just run out there for that 68-yard attempt, and Dave Tobe was looking at him a little bit confused and asked Andy Reid, should we kick it? And I thought in that moment, as much as I would have loved to see it, it feels like a long shot, and if you do miss that, which the chances are high of missing that, though I might reconsider with Harrison Butker being the one kicking the ball, the Bengals get the ball at midfield, the 6-point lead, and there's still 20-some seconds to go, and they could make that a 9-point lead going into halftime. And then you don't have a one-score game. You're going to need to get another defensive stop in the second half. So I understand not kicking it. But as Andy Reid said there, we were aiming for the 39, he said? Or maybe it was the 29. I'm already blanking on what yard line he said that he was gunning for there. Would have set it up for Butker. I think he said the 30-yard line now that I think about it. To get it from 47 to 50 yards right there. But in the end, they could only get it to the 34? Yeah, I think the 34-yard line would set out to be a 51-yard field goal. So wanted to get a little bit more. That would have been right around the first down marker. Didn't matter, though. That kick was good from 65 or 70 yards, and it was pure, right down the middle for Harrison Butker. Now, back to the offensive side of things. It was a big struggle for Kingsley Suamataia. Here is what Andy Reid had to say about his performance and it being a learning experience.
Yeah, it's a great learning experience. Sometimes if you get beat a couple different times and you're a young guy, you haven't quite figured out the answers to the test there on how to fix it. And your coach talks to you, and then you got to settle down, and that happens. So you go back and you learn from it. And Wanya will do the same thing. He did a nice job jumping in there, and with the exception of the penalty. So.
It was a really tough spot for Wanya to step into. I can't imagine, even though he had the touchdown grab, which I think we will hear the audio of that a little bit later on. That's a tough spot to walk into. Tough spot for both of the guys out there. Kingsley, as a rookie, gets pulled because he isn't doing his job. He's getting flagged. He's getting beaten up on by Trey Hendrickson, as Andy Reid called him, one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. But Wanya Morris has to come in ice cold and try to block him on the final two drives of the game that the Chiefs had. But for Kingsley, I am very curious what he's going to look like next Sunday night on the road for the first time in his NFL career. I know they went on the road in the preseason. This is, of course, different. This is prime time Sunday night football in Atlanta. And you got to come back with a vengeance. You got your spot taken from you in a critical and crucial moment. I think we'll see a more inspired Kingsley Suamataia. Hopefully we'll see a more buttoned up Kingsley Suamataia. And I think he can use this as a learning experience. This was a welcome to the NFL rookie moment. This was the type of guy that he's going to have to face in the postseason. You think you're going to be able to go up against 3 teams or 2 teams in the postseason without a good edge rusher. No, the teams that get into the postseason, they have a good defensive front. And at left tackle, they're going to need much better play from Kingsley Suamataia. Andy Reid appears confident that he can give them better performance there. And you are listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB and the Red and Gold Postgame Show brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Now back to Harrison Butker's kick. We know what the strategy was, but Andy Reid had a chance to talk about Harrison Butker in moments like this when he's under pressure.
I hope we all are that good under pressure. He does a great job with it. Yeah.
Kickers are a little bit different, right? When you're evaluating them, they're not on the field as often, and they are judged by one play usually. And in moments like that, Harrison Butker could have been 5 for 5 today. And if he misses that kick at the end, you're talking about how Harrison Butker lost you the game. It's just the tough reality of football. It's the way that a lot of NFL fans, and college fans for that matter, evaluate the kicker. But you would be hard-pressed to find many guys out there in critical moments like that. Game-changing moments, game-winning moments. And time and again comes through. Doesn't matter the position. I'm talking quarterback. I'm talking edge rusher with the game on the line. Maybe if you want to throw the punter in there, we'll show a little love for Matt Ariza because his 60-plus yard punt tonight absolutely was big time and flipping the field in a spot like that. But you put Harrison Butker in any situation, game-winning kick for the Super Bowl, game-winning kick for the AFC divisional round, for the AFC championship game, for games like this, early on, to kick it 3 times in a row in overtime to win it. You miss, you lose. You make it, you win. Hard to find many players at any position in the sport that come through in moments like that. Ice in his veins. Harrison Butker was fantastic today. He's been fantastic ever since taking over as kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now let's go to Patrick Mahomes' performance, and it wasn't pretty. Seemed like he was forcing the issue way too many times. Maybe there wasn't as much faith in the offensive line, which led to some bad throws. But let's start with that first interception. It was ugly. Was trying to get the ball to Travis Kelce. There was a lot of Cincinnati Bengals players in that area, and maybe he just wasn't seeing anybody jumping in front of that route. Maybe he thought he had enough on it, had enough throw power to squeeze the ball into Travis Kelce. Nonetheless, bad decision. Didn't work out. Here's what Andy Reid thought of that pick.
Turnovers. I know you haven't gone back and watched everything, but what did you see on Patrick's first interception from the field level?
Yeah, the guy got him. He was waiting on Kels just to break in. Kels broke in there, and he didn't see it. It was a cover 2 look, and that backside linebacker, experienced guy, snuck right into the pitcher there. So he doesn't miss many of those. But it was.
That was our very own Todd Lebo asking that question to Andy Reid as well. There's been few times when I'm watching any NFL game for that matter, because these are the best guys in the world. These are multi-millionaires, $100 million players, and you don't see them make picks like that a lot. Let me rephrase that. You don't see them make many picks where when you're watching on the couch, you can see the play happening. Like, I think a lot of us out there, when that ball was thrown, saw the backside linebacker jump in front of Travis Kelce and it got picked. Like, most of the time when you see interceptions, the camera hasn't panned there yet. It was more of a wide shot. I hope I'm describing this correctly. But you could see the route being jumped. Like, in my mind, I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes with the ball, and I have 100% confidence and faith that he's going to make the right decision 9.9 out of 10 times. I'll even go the extra mile there. Now, I got confidence that he's not going to make too many throws like that, which is why I was baffled when he did make the throw, because it almost looked like a trap. It looked like a bait that the Bengals were showing him. And maybe, I'm not even talking first-year starter Patrick Mahomes because he won the MVP that year. I'm talking rookie Patrick Mahomes. And that start against Denver. Like, I think he would make a throw like that. I'm trying to force the issue when he didn't need to. And Patrick Mahomes would tell you that. You can't throw it there in that spot. I thought I could get it there. It didn't work out. And we were hearing the postgame audio last week after the Baltimore Ravens game. Remember on that first pick that he had of the season? I thought I could get it to Travis Kelce there. Maybe it was Rashee Rice, and it didn't get there. And I got to know to pocket that ball, not try to force the issue. And he forced the issue twice today. But you're not going to doubt anything. you're not going to feel any differently. It was a bad throw, but it was one of those weird times where I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm just seeing this play happen in real time. Like, please don't throw it there because that backside linebacker is coming down to jump that route. And lo and behold, he jumped that route. Fortunately, the Chiefs' defense was able to overcome some of those bad turnovers that the Chiefs had on Sunday. 3 of them in total, aside from the 2 interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. There also was Carson Steele's first fumble at the NFL level. What did Andy Reid make of that?
Yeah, he's another young guy. You got to keep the ball up against your body in this league. He was down low, and he had 2 hands on it, but it starts rising up, and all of a sudden you get it punched out. Something he can learn from. You can't do that at this level. So he came back and he ran hard for us.
Andy Reid did put him back out there in the game in some big-time spots as well when he had to pick up a 4th and short, and you got to hang on to the football. If there's one thing you can know about Andy Reid, it is ball security with running backs. And we saw that a lot, too, when Eric Bieniemy was still here as the OC. You can't be fumbling. You can't be fumbling in any spot of the game. You are there to make sure you can pick up the extra yards, but keep the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand. Don't be the one to rip the ball from Mahomes' hand. It doesn't matter what type of performance he's having. And Carson Steele learned from it. They put him back out there, and he had a couple of big-time runs in that one. And who knows, maybe now he's going to have even more of an elevated role due to the injury concern of Isaiah Pacheco. Now, of that 4th down play, there were a few times the Chiefs had to go for it on 4th down. One of them they elected to kick, and a few more of the other times they decided to go for it on 4th and short by running the football. What did Andy Reid make of some of those 4th down plays?
Well, there's not a whole lot other than you want to get it. You know, you're hoping that it's a completion. So, yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, you're in the mix. So, I wasn't dreaming about going to the Bahamas at that time. So.
I do think it frustrates me to no end that on 4th and short, 4th and inches, the Chiefs just won't run a quarterback sneak. I mean, even the Bengals today, they were able to run that quarterback sneak with Joe Burrow, but because of that injury to Patrick Mahomes, I don't think we're ever going to see him quarterback sneak it again. And it makes you sweat it out a little bit more when you have to turn around and hand the ball off, no matter how tricky you get. When you have the fullback dive, you have a little bit of the misdirection, you have a rollout, when you could just fall forward. But we know this by now. I'm not going to keep fighting it or arguing about it because this has been a thing for multiple years, 3+ years now. They're not going to quarterback sneak it on 4th and short. They are going to try to run the football. And today, it worked out a handful of times. It worked out 2 on 4th and 16 when the Chiefs got a PI call to extend their drive and eventually set up the game-winning field goal. Now, we did hear from Chamari Connor, I believe, at the beginning of this segment, his scoop and score, which was our defensive play of the game brought to you by Bodabox. What did Andy Reid think of the performance by number 27?
Yeah, you know what? I should have mentioned him because he had a heck of a game. He was all over the place. And he's playing good football right now. So
sometimes you get a little bit caught up in the scoop and score, and you say, oh, well, he had a great game because he picked up a football and ran it into the end zone. Right, but sometimes you could have the worst game of your career and you're just right place at the right time. I think what Andy Reid is getting at, I think what Steve Spagnuolo will be getting at throughout the week, is that Chamari Connor stepped up in a big way. I think more importantly, he stepped up on that DB blitz. I mean, the scoop and score, I don't care who could have got it, just as long as they were fast enough to outrun the Bengals players chasing him. But the DB blitz, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon. Very impressive day from Chamari Connor in a group with that secondary that is looking for their number 2 cornerback. It appears to be Jalen Watson right now, but they need some help with the safety group as well. Chamari Connor going to get a lot of reps, Brian Cook going to get a lot of reps, and Jaden Hicks to go alongside Justin Reed. This next one comes from our guy Pete Sweeney, who had the chance to ask a little bit more about Kingsley Suamataia.
Is your expectation to go right back to Kingsley next week?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to go back and look at the tape, and I'll talk with Coach Hack, and we'll go from there.
So a little bit more discouraging than I thought it would be. Remember, I said in the first 20 minutes of the Red and Gold postgame show, it's a learning experience, and I don't believe there's a better option to go to if you do bench Kingsley Suamataia. I like Wanya Morris, but Kingsley won the job out of camp. But Andy Reid said they're going to go evaluate the film, talk with O-line coach Andy Heck, and make their decision for next Sunday night against the Atlanta Falcons. Now back to Harrison Butker. Andy Reid had a chance to talk about the preparation. Maybe, or actually not. We're going to pivot on that one. We're actually going to go to Wanya Morris and his touchdown grab today. Will he be starting next week? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't be. But maybe in the future we'll be able to see him catch another touchdown pass. What did Andy Reid think of that play call?
Yeah, that was good. No, he did a nice job. I probably should have mentioned that too. That was a great job. You know, he when you're that open, sometimes you can freak out if you're not. He secured it, and it was all good. That was great.
What a world in which Wanya Morris has more receiving touchdowns this season than Travis Kelce. I wonder what the odds were going into the game for touchdown receptions by Wanya Morris. I doubt he was even on the board, so you'd have to go out of your way to put some money down on that. Feels like, though, once a year, the Chiefs do have a fat man touchdown, as we call him. Nick Allegretti was involved in a few. Eric Fisher was involved in a few. Dontari Poe was involved in a receiving one, a rushing one, and a throwing one. Nobody will be able to top that, in my opinion, being the heaviest player in the NFL and having the trifecta right there. But Wanya Morris does get a receiving touchdown today. Now, the last one we do want to play is about Harrison Butker's preparation going into a game like this and going into a kick like this.
Yeah, so he'll tell you that's his job. I mean, to figure out all that stuff. Those guys are half weathermen, so they know the wind, they know the weather and all that, and they've got to calculate everything in. He's practices kicking in our stadium, so he knows exactly how it swirls, and he does a good job with that. So, yeah.
Now, I did misspeak. We do have one more piece of info from Andy Reid that I think a lot of people want to know about, and it goes back to Wanya Morris's touchdown grab. What is that play called, right? There's always that fancy play call that the Chiefs have for their special plays. There's got to be one for Wanya Morris, right? There is got to be a creative one about this, and fortunately for us, our very own Todd Lebo was the one to ask that question. So as soon as I get the thumbs up here, we'll be able to hear the name of Wanya Morris's touchdown catch.
You got a name for Wanya's touchdown?
No. Too early in the season. All right.
Well, I led you on with all of that.
I tried to let you know that he gave Todd maybe the stiff arm.
He gave him the stiff arm.
But
that's on me. So if I just teased that and you didn't get anything, that's on me.
I think we all know it's boys to men. Right?
It has to be. It has to be.
Okay.
They're keeping that too close to the chest right now. Keeping that too close. They can't let anybody know. Because there has to be a name for that. There's no way that just has a generic-ass play call name. It's Wanya Morris, the backup left tackle, slipping through the line. First has to rule himself as eligible as a receiver. And he has a touchdown grab. There's got to be a name for it. But I did a bad job there. I let it in to Todd Lebo asking the question, teeing it up for Andy Reid to give him a glorious name call. Nothing. No, we're not there yet. It's too early in the season. Week 2 boringness,
I could have given you a lookout block there, let you know. But
it's tough because, for those that don't know, is that for Dylan to talk to me without going over the air, it cuts out my audio. So I just hear Dylan. So sometimes you'll hear me pause. That might be when Dylan's telling me something, but there's a little bit of a miscommunication right there. Maybe we will get the information later on in the year. We can go back to this and pull up the audio of Andy Reid stiff-arming Todd Lebo and then saying, oh, we actually did have a name for it. We just didn't want it to get out at that point in time. But that was Andy Reid after the Chiefs' 26-25 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Harrison Butker with the game-winning 51-yard field goal. We'll take a quick break. You are listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. None other than Wanya Morris's touchdown grab. Was a great design. And you always feel like when you got a backup out there, something could be fishy. Something could go in a different way. But I think the Bengals thought that Wanya Morris is out there to be an extra blocker. But as I said, that touchdown grab was the Andy Reid call of the game, and it's brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. You can make the right call as well by visiting shamrockroofer.com. Shamrock Roofing and Construction. One call does it all. Well, we heard from Andy Reid in the last segment. Now we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes, who didn't have the cleanest of performances in this 26-25 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Didn't throw for a lot of yards, turned the ball over twice. One of those touchdown passes was to a backup lineman right up next to the goal line, but his other touchdown pass was a phenomenal, well-placed ball to Rashee Rice. I'd argue that's one of the best throws of his career. There's a lot to choose from, but that was about as perfect of a placement as you could put a ball in a spot like that to Rashee Rice. A little bit underthrown. That ball is knocked away. Slightly too far. That lands maybe an inch or two out of reach for Rashee Rice. But I think Patrick Mahomes is not going to be too kind to his performance in this 26-25 win. And as you heard from his interview with Tracy Wolfson a little bit earlier on in the show, they got to clean it up. Right, they got to clean up offensively, and that is exactly what Patrick Mahomes opened up his post-game presser with.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did a lot of good things, but obviously the 3 turnovers just can't happen. The first interception, I got to find the backside linebacker, and I mean the kid made a great play on the second pick. But I'm glad we played not as clean as we wanted to, and still found a way to win. That speaks to the defense and the full entire team. But obviously we got to clean up a lot of stuff on offense as we go forward.
It does need to get cleaned up a little bit. I don't think anybody's concerned about this offense not being able to put up points or to be turning it over 3 times a game. But I will say on those 2 interceptions, they were just balls that shouldn't have been thrown. You know, he did say on the second interception, which was picked off by Cam Taylor-Britt, the guy that was talking a little trash on Worthy earlier in the week about him just being a straight-line runner. It was an incredible play. Ball shouldn't have been thrown. Worthy was not open. Worthy didn't really have a step on Cam Taylor-Britt. So it was an acrobatic play, a one-handed grab, very Odell Beckham Jr.-esque, but the ball shouldn't have been thrown. The first one shouldn't have been thrown either, and as Mahomes said, he's got to be able to pick up the backside linebacker on that and just make a better decision there. Now, the play of, I think, the game to social media and what everybody's talking about and still talking about online was the pass interference call on Rashee Rice, or the defensive pass interference on Rashee Rice on that 4th and 16 play. What did Patrick Mahomes think about it, and what did he see on that play?
Yeah, no, obviously they're going to get in that kind of fence defense at the sticks, and so my job is to buy time for guys to get downfield. I was able to do that. As I scrambled to the left, I saw Rashee open. I knew it was going to be contested, but you got to put the ball up. And Rashee did a great job of trying to get the ball. I haven't seen the replay or anything, but it felt like the Duquesne was there pretty early, and we got the flag. But I mean, you got to give guys chances in those situations, and that's what we did.
Yeah, he was there early, and I don't think there's much he could have done, because if he doesn't interfere on that ball, I think Rashee Rice catches it. I think if he's not getting drilled in the back when that ball is inches from his hands, I think he pulls that down. So the bigger problem is letting Rashee Rice get at least somewhat open in that type of spot. And it reminds me a lot of that game last year against the Eagles on that 4th down and long play. Patrick Mahomes tries to get it to Justin Watson. Justin Watson thought that whoever the Eagles cornerback was at that point in time got there a little bit early, but he could have caught the ball as well. And it fell incomplete, and the Chiefs lost that game. Today, the PI was called, and it was a little bit more obvious. There are people that are going to debate that and say the Chiefs get all the calls there. That feels pretty blatant to me. I mean, it's very obvious that he got there early, and as Patrick Mahomes said, I got to give those guys a chance. And who better to give a chance on a play like that than Rashee Rice? Now, Patrick Mahomes also said when you get a ball in a spot like that, they've got that confidence in finding ways to win. Does he have that feeling? Whether it's the regular season, the postseason, does it change with that, or is it just anytime he's got the ball in his hands, he feels like he's going to win?
100%. I mean, I think until you don't have the time hit zero, I feel like there's a chance that you can win the football game. And obviously, we've done that in so many different ways, and so we're prepared. We come in with that mentality that if we get the football with the chance to win the game, we're going to do it, and we were able to do that today.
The 13-second game is always going to make me look at Patrick Mahomes differently. If there is 13 seconds on the clock, and that's kind of my baseline, and they have at least a few timeouts, they can tie the game up, and they can go win it in overtime. So a minute 52, are you kidding me? He's got plenty of time to move down the field. Wasn't as methodical as his Super Bowl drive just a few months ago, but it got the job done today with the game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker from 51 yards out. Now, Cincinnati, they didn't walk away with a W, and they're 0-2 on the season, but they got some type of performance from Trey Hendrickson and his work that he did against Kingsley Suamataia, a rookie. What did Patrick Mahomes think about dealing with a guy like him in the backfield all day long?
I mean, he's just an absolute monster, man. I mean, like, he just, like, his motor, the way he's able to rush the passer. I remember playing him in New Orleans, and he was like that, and he got to Cincinnati, he's been like that. But he did a great job today, man. He's great against the run and the pass, kind of an underrated guy. But I mean, it was a good test for us, and we'll get better for it.
And the guy that Trey Hendrickson was beaten up on was a rookie in Kingsley Suamataia. And he did get benched in that game, and we heard from Andy Reid that they're going to look over film. He's going to talk with Andy Heck, and they'll have their decision as to who will start at left tackle against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. What did Patrick Mahomes think of Kingsley's performance?
Yeah, I mean, just keep playing, man. And you're not always going to have your perfect day. I mean, I didn't have a perfect day today. But just like any other great player, you have to trust in your abilities. You have to learn from it. You have to have that mentality. I'm going to come and get better this next week. But I have all the trust in the world that he's going to keep getting better and better and be a guy that I can really count on every single game.
Kingsley didn't have a great day. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a great day. And Travis Kelce didn't really have a great day. Just one catch for 5 yards, I believe it was. Did have one big catch and run that was called back due to a hold. He tried to throw it backwards as well, just like that play against the Bills last year in which Kadarius Toney lined up off sides. But on the play, he caught it in stride and was able to run into the end zone. A very memorable play of last year's Chiefs squad. But it's been a quiet 2 weeks for Travis Kelce. What is Patrick Mahomes seeing from Travis Kelce and the coverage that they put on him?
Yeah, no, they're doing a great job of just kind of having two people for him. I mean, pretty much the entire game. That's why you've seen guys like Rasheed and Worthy. I mean, if you look at the first touchdown, I'm actually looking to Trav, and the backside safety goes all the way across the field to help guard Travis, and then you throw the ball down the sideline to Rasheed, and that's kind of what they've been doing. And obviously, we played two opponents we've played a lot, so they have a plan on how they're going to account for Travis. But as the season goes on, I mean, he's going to get his catches, he's going to get his yards. But the leader that he is what's special is he's hyping everybody up, he's keeping everybody motivated, and that's what you need out of your great players.
There's a lot of great players on this offense, and we know that Travis Kelce's going to get things figured out. But while he is still getting going early on this year, not getting as many targets, he is getting bottled up. And the defenses they've faced in Baltimore and Cincinnati have basically taken away his strengths. Well, Rashee Rice is the one that is kind of making up for the lost ground there and has had two really good performances back-to-back weeks. What did Patrick Mahomes think about Rashee Rice making plays today?
Yeah, it was a play where I was actually going to look at the right side first. They gave me a kind of a too high type of look, and like I said, I was going to shoot it to Trav in the middle of the field. The backside safety kind of closed in, and that's what got my eyes to Rasheed, and then he won against a great corner. So that's what you want to see. I told y'all, man, he can do a lot of different things, man, and so I'm going to keep giving him opportunities, and he's going to keep making plays.
Well, today it was the over-the-top pass, right, taking the deep shot with Rashee Rice, but last week it was the quick pop plays, the slant routes, right? So it feels like Rashee Rice is able to attack a defense in a variety of ways, which is making him increasingly dangerous and more of a number one wide receiver in the NFL. So what did Patrick Mahomes think about Rashee Rice and the coverage they bring him and the skill set that he has to overcome that coverage?
Yeah, I think people obviously saw last week, so they're not going to let him have those free releases and the short stuff, and he has to be able to show that he can beat people deep, and he was able to do that today. And then we had the holding, but he did again later at the end of the game, and he's a complete receiver, man. He's getting better and better, and he can do it all. I think people see the short stuff and they get enamored by it because it's so special when he catches the ball, but he can catch the ball down the field. He can block. He can do everything it takes to be a great receiver in this league.
The bad news is that Hollywood Brown isn't going to be paired up with Rashee Rice this season, at least in the regular season. But we are seeing the emergence of a true number one wide receiver in the NFL, and I think the Chiefs had been searching for that ever since Tyreek Hill was traded to Miami. Rashee Rice is a great route runner. He's got great hands. He's got game-changing speed, and that was on display for the second straight week. Now, a guy that doesn't have game-changing speed, but I guess has great hands and maybe deceiving hands among the offensive line group is Wanya Morris. What did Patrick Mahomes think about that touchdown pass to the backup left tackle?
Obviously it was a great drive. I mean, running the football, getting downhill, and so they have to bring more and more people in the game, bigger people, and Coach Reid dialed it up at the right time. Wanya had been in a couple plays blocking as that extra lineman, and right when they thought they were just going to shoot and make a play, he released them into the flat. And I mean, if you look at the play, Wanya's open, and I threw in Travis was also wide open. So that comes with getting the run game going, man. You get the run game going, and it helps out the entire offense.
Well, it hasn't been the prettiest of two games, but the Chiefs are 2-0 to start the year against two teams that might be playoff bound. They'll have a little bit of a ways to go. It is early on, but the Ravens and the Bengals are both 0-2. The Chiefs are 2-0. What does Mahomes think about this start to the season?
Yeah, it just shows that we can still do it. I mean, those are two great football teams we've played these last 2 weeks, teams that we've played in AFC championship games, and be able to come out with wins at home, that's important. And obviously we feel like we can get a lot better. And so we're going to clean up the mistakes, especially on the offense. It starts with me, and then we'll be a better team forward as the season goes on. But it'll be a great challenge this next weekend on Sunday Night Football in Atlanta.
It's going to be against a team that the Chiefs aren't as familiar with. You will get Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. It will be on the road. Should be an awesome environment and welcoming the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. And we know Patrick Mahomes is a big reason as to why the Chiefs are in the position they are, why they are 2-0, why they are two-time defending Super Bowl champions. They are going for their fourth Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era. It's because of his performance, because of Andy Reid, and a little bit of help as well from Harrison Butker, who's had some big-time kicks in the postseason, and more importantly today. Does Patrick Mahomes have any nerves when Butker goes out there? Because I sure as hell don't.
I mean, I'm nervous, but I'm not nervous. So it's like I'm obviously nervous because it's out of my hands. I don't have a chance to go out there and make a play. But at the same time, like when I step on the field on that fourth quarter drive with 2 minutes or whatever it is, and all I need is a field goal, I just really know I got to cross the 50, and Harrison's going to go out there and knock it through. It's a special thing to have a kicker like that, and so super appreciative of it, and he's going to keep making them, man.
It is such an underrated part of a football team to have a great kicker because you can completely change your playbook if all you need is 10 to 20 yards, which is kind of what the Chiefs needed on that final drive to get in Harrison Butker's range. If you don't have faith in your kicker, you may be thinking about trying to get down to the 20-yard line. I mean, that's 40, 50 more yards at times that you need to go. But Harrison Butker can kick it from anywhere. He can kick it accurately. He can kick it with power. And, yeah, Patrick Mahomes says, I'm nervous because I'm not out there with the ball in my hands, but I'm not nervous as well because Harrison Butker comes through in so many moments like that. Now, there was a very intriguing play, but as Andy Reid had brought up, a lot of their best plays were called back by penalties. And Patrick Mahomes did have a scramble play to Travis Kelce, and then Travis Kelce tried to do his own hook and ladder. It was a wild play, and it didn't count for anything. But what did Patrick Mahomes see on that play?
Yeah, no, he did a great job. I mean, just you got to be able to have that in the offense, being able to scramble and make throws downfield. Obviously, they were doing a good job of when I scrambled of covering the guys and letting me run, but they lost the Trav for a second. I got him the football, and he's like pump faking and stuff. I mean, he's the only person in the league I think can pump fake like 40 yards downfield, but he will throw it. So I mean, they have to respect it. So we'll get it going as the season goes on. I'm sure more of those plays will happen.
Just backyard football between those two. Just get open. Find a spot in the defense, and I'll be able to find you. He did today, but there was a holding call back at the offensive line, which negated all of that excitement. Hopefully they can clean that up for next week. And lastly, Patrick Mahomes had a little bit to say on the fourth down decisions today in the win against the Bengals.
The first drive, I bet you're going to go for it down there.
I always want to go for it. So, but obviously with that drive that we had, Coach Reid sent out the field goal unit, and that's what makes us a great team, man. Like, obviously I want the offense to be high-flying and explosive, but I feel like in years past, like if I played like we played today offensively, we would have lost this game. But we have a great football team. Defense stepped up, made plays. Special teams made plays. And so I'm excited for it. We're not even playing our best football, and we're still getting these wins against great opponents.
And that was Patrick Mahomes after the Chiefs' narrow 26-25 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's coming up on the Red and Gold postgame show. Choice with the DB Blitz with Chamari Connor, and the right choice is presented by Choice Solutions, your trusted, locally owned IT partner since 1985, providing IT expertise, services, and solutions to help your business grow. You can also make the right choice today by going to choicesolutions.com. And we're going to hop on the phone line and talk with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, and he's brought to you by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to CapOneLending.com. Matt, how are we doing after another thriller at Arrowhead Stadium?
It's never a dull moment with this team, is it, Jack? I mean, just when you think that maybe there might be a routine game that this team plays, no, that's not the way it rolls with this team.
No, only weird games, it feels like, with the Chiefs. And if you're not used to that by now, I don't really know what to tell you. But let's go back to that final drive for this offense. It's 4th and 6, or it was 4th and 6, and they have it called back because of the legal hands of the face and Wanya Morris, who had come in for Kingsley Suamataia. It sets up a prayer situation for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But from your vantage point, I know there's a little bit of controversy out there. I don't really understand why. But that's pass interference on that play with Rashee Rice, is it not? Is there any wiggle room there for people out there saying that can't be PI, or is this as obvious as PI as it gets?
I mean, that's like textbook. I mean, you could put that in the league of video for definition of pass interference. And, to me, I was comparing it at the end of the game afterwards, Jack, to, it's not dissimilar to a basketball play at the end of a game. I mean, if you get a pass inside and a guy's going up for a layup, as a defensive player, all you can do is go straight up. You can't go through the defender, and that's exactly what happened on that play. I mean, if you're a defensive player in a situation like that, and I don't really call that a desperation heave, because I think that was a good throw. Rashee Rice had a reasonable chance to get it, but he didn't have a chance to go get it because the defender went through him completely and totally. Was early, didn't give him a chance to make a play on the ball at all. That's just absolute textbook to me.
Now, the offense, you probably wished wasn't in a spot like that. They had a couple of turnovers, 2 from Patrick Mahomes, 1 on the fumble from Carson Steele. When you look at this performance from Patrick Mahomes and how the offense looks, some of the play calling, do you just chalk that up to this was a rivalry game, the Bengals always seem to play the Chiefs close, or is there a little bit more to it that maybe this offense isn't going to look as sharp as it did maybe in Week 1 against the Ravens?
Well, and that's a reasonable question. I mean, I think that this game did turn into a brawl. So, you can look at it a couple of different ways. If you're glass half full, you can look at this and say, hey, the Chiefs, traditionally, we know it. I mean, they're a finesse team. It's not necessarily an insult. It's just that it's what they are. They like to throw the football. They like to do that. They're not necessarily a power run team or a team that's going to just beat you over the head like that. They're a team that's going to outthink you, outsmart you. That's the way they play. This turned into a street fight, and they proved that they can win a street fight. That, I think, is a good, idea to have. And, that's, like I said, that's the glass half full way of looking at this game. The glass half empty would look at this and say, yeah, the offense played terribly. Patrick Mahomes had a very bad game, made a couple of turnovers that a quarterback of his quality should not be making. Travis Kelce doesn't make any plays. Really, outside of the one throw to Rashee Rice, the offense didn't get a lot done. They ran the ball. They ran the ball, as well as you're supposed to, but maybe above and beyond. And they struggled when they got into the red zone, and certainly down at the goal line. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to look at this and say, hey, yeah, the Chiefs' offense maybe last week was an aberration. This was a lot closer to last year's performance. I'll buy that, but I'd still say it's too early. It's 2 games. Let's see what happens, because even with not having, we know this team's not going to have Hollywood Brown. They might be playing without Isaiah Pacheco for a while too. I just think that they have too many weapons for this offense to be, to look like they did today. I think they're going to be better than this. And the Bengals are still a good team with a lot of top-end players, and they've got some good guys in that defense. Today they rose to the occasion. I mean, this is maybe one of the better efforts that the Bengals are going to have this season, and they definitely raised their level to match the fact that this is the Chiefs, and Chiefs have to get used to the fact that, once again, like it has been the last few seasons, they're going to get everybody's best shot.
We're talking with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Let's go to that Isaiah Pacheco injury. Didn't really get the feel, at least on social media, that it's going to be good news. Sounds like Isaiah Pacheco was emotional. He was on crutches and a walking boot. What's the feel you got right now about Isaiah Pacheco? And you don't want to speculate at all, but is this going to be bad news come all the tests here on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're certainly hoping for the best for him and for the team. But yeah, I was talking to Carson Steele when Pacheco came into the locker room, went straight to his locker, and you could tell he was pretty upset. And Andy Reid walked right behind me and walked over to him before he went to the podium and gave Pacheco a big hug and talked to him privately for probably a good 30 seconds. And after that, several others, came over to him and talked to him. A lot of teammates came over, gave him a hug and talked to him. That doesn't happen, when it's something fairly minor. That's what usually happens, Jack, when it's something that's going to keep a player out for a long period of time and, maybe beyond a couple of weeks. Like you said, not to speculate, so we certainly don't know the nature of the injury. They're going to be doing some more tests and x-rays, MRI on that ankle. I've just been told that they don't suspect that it's an Achilles injury, but that can mean that there's still a lot of things in that ankle that it could be.
And you look at this running back room right now. They've got an undrafted free agent rookie in Carson Steele. They brought in Samaje Perine a couple weeks ago, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not on the active roster right now. And if you go into Sunday night with just two running backs, what do you think the plan might be? Is it to make Carson Steele the number one running back? Do you have to go pick up somebody elsewhere? Because, the Chiefs already had a little bit of a depleted running back room after Isaiah Pacheco, and they had to get creative with bringing in different guys. How do you approach the running back room if Isaiah Pacheco is out for an extended period of time?
Well, you do have a couple of guys there, and then I think you've got, not just Amani Bailey, but I think there's Keontae Ingram on the practice squad. So you've got a couple of players that, you can certainly bring up and augment your numbers. Samaje Perine now suddenly really becomes a very useful tool, especially, it's really frustrating because you look at a couple of plays in that game, not only, was Pacheco giving you the hard yards like he usually does, but he had some really nice catches in this game too, and including one where I thought, gosh, that reminds me a lot of Jerick McKinnon as far as just catching the ball in space and making a guy miss and making a play. So that's the really disappointing thing is that Pacheco seems like he was really playing well, and now you could be missing that for a while. You look at this team, I think that you're definitely talking about the possibility that Carson Steele does become the starting running back and steps into that role. I mean, he's certainly the next man up in this position. It'd be hard to believe that they're going to bring in somebody from outside the organization or somebody on the practice squad to leapfrog him. Does it mean more time for Samaje Perine? Absolutely. But, the Chiefs did not put Carson Steele on the roster in that position unless they felt like he was ready for it if called upon. So I don't think there's any doubt. They're ready to go with him there. We'll see how much time that, once again, Clyde's going to miss. He's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks. We'll see if this, maybe accelerates his timeline, their timeline. We don't know. But the Chiefs do have a roster spot open that they needed to just add a running back, whether it's from the practice squad or elsewhere. They can to help out with the depth chart. But I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, you look at this, it's going to be, if Pacheco can't play next week against Atlanta, it's Carson Steele and Samaje Perine doing the bulk of the work in the backfield.
Now, one of the interesting things that I thought Andy Reid brought up in the postgame was when he was asked about Kingsley Suamataia, his performance today, and what they may do on Sunday night against the Falcons, and he said, we'll go back and look at film and, talk with Andy Heck about what the decision may be. But, Matt, after this performance, and it certainly wasn't a good one against Trey Hendrickson, do you feel like Kingsley Suamataia might go to the bench as early as week 3, or was that more so just coaches speak and he'll get back up on the horse next weekend?
Well, it is interesting, and especially because I compare that Andy Reid answer to last year when, Jawan Taylor got benched, and oddly enough, in week 2 against Jacksonville when he had that flurry of penalties called upon him. And, and Andy Reid said, hey, just felt like he needed a break. He, needed to get out of there and felt like the officials were targeting him and singling him out. I thought there was a reasonable chance that we might get, similar, line tonight that, hey, Kingsley was just struggling a little bit. The Bengals were attacking him specifically and picking on him a little bit. So thought it was just important for him to maybe get out of there and reboot a little bit. Instead, it's hey, look at the film and think about it. I mean, it does make me wonder if this team might consider any and all options. I mean, that could mean, letting Wanye Morris play after he came in. And he unfortunately drew a penalty that hurt them at a key moment, but they won the game with him on the field. Maybe that's an option. If you're the Chiefs, I mean, do you call Donovan Smith or another free agent and see if if they're ready to come back and come in and want to, maybe either back up or compete for a starting role on this team? I think Chiefs are absolutely committed to Kingsley Suamataia long term, so I don't think that's very likely. But, hey, do they want to give him a break, or do they just want to reevaluate their game plans? Because they, once again, what is this game plan today is looking like that they just left, Kingsley on an island to handle things himself and didn't really do a lot to help him out against Hendrickson, as far as whether there's some chipping or support behind him, keeping the tight end in. I mean, it didn't really seem like they were doing a lot to protect him in any way.
And one last question for you here, Matt. We really appreciate your time. Travis Kelce has been pretty much a non-factor in these first two games, yet both of them have resulted in W's. Should there be any concern about Travis Kelce not really getting the ball as much, not getting open, or we soon to have a performance of 8 for 110 and 2 touchdowns from Travis Kelce?
I mean, I think there's some concern, Jack, just simply because, Andy Reid's offense runs through the tight end. That's the way it's always been. It's the way it's always going to be. If Andy Reid coaches 10 more years in 2034, the offense is going to run through the tight end. And certainly teams that are continuing to respect Travis Kelce, that's going to be part of it. I mean, he's going to get a lot of attention, which means that there should be openings for other players and other guys. But I think at the same time, even though you look at this team and you're going to say, wait a minute, there's some other playmakers, Travis doesn't have to do everything. If this offense is going to reach its potential, Travis still has to do a lot. I mean, he still needs to be Travis. And, if he's struggling or, the team's just struggling to get the ball to him, I mean, I think that does limit a little bit of their high end. I think, the question is, why is he struggling? And do the Chiefs make some adjustments that maybe don't help them? This is the second week in a row where Patrick Mahomes has an interception trying to force the ball to Travis Kelce. And, you can't do that. I mean, you just have to do take what the defense is giving you. And I think that interception today that the linebacker made, that was absolutely a great example. I mean, there were other options. And had Mahomes done with those other options, they hold on to the football and they get some yards. So, you do need more production from Travis Kelce. I think that production will be there. I mean, he is Travis Kelce. He's going to make some plays. But you can't change who you are just because, Travis is struggling. I mean, you still need to run your offense the way you do it. You can't force the football and make mistakes. I think you just have to give Travis the time to kind of sort himself out. And, eventually you feel like you're going to find equilibrium there.
Well, Matt, appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, Jack. Take care, my friend.
There he goes. That's Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, and you are tuned in to the Red and Gold Postgame Show brought to you by Boda Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly, and sponsored by Boda Vineyards in Manteca, California. We'll take a quick break. You're listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Light, and that's brought to you by Green Light Dispensary, the unofficial sponsor of Kansas City's favorite football team. Look for Green Light Stadium flyover banners at your favorite games this fall. GreenLightDispensary.com. And now it's time for our locker room report, brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks. Well, our very own Stephen St. John, who you can hear here in, what would that be, 7 to 8 hours or so on a new day with SSJ. Well, he had the chance out at Arrowhead Stadium to talk with Samaje Perine, who did have a screen pass catch in that final drive. It didn't go anywhere, but he may be asked to get a little bit more of a workload moving forward with the uncertainty of Isaiah Pacheco and his health. Let's hear that conversation now.
As far as like hatred, I don't
football
think
hatred, just like different.
Right. But it's like both teams are highly competitive, so I feel like we look forward to it because we know it's going to be a great game. No matter what kind of season each team is having, like we know when it comes to this game, it's going to be a very competitive game, and I think that's what the big driving force is behind this game because it really kind of came out of nowhere a couple years ago. Nobody was expecting this to turn out like it did, to be the rivalry that it is right now. So wouldn't say it's hatred, football hatred, whatever. I would say it's mutual respect for, what the other team is doing, and for, the game itself, because we know it's going to be a big game regardless of how each team's season is going.
What is it, like you said, it doesn't matter how the season is going or whatever else? Playoffs, regular season, they're always close games. It always comes down to one or two plays. What is it that makes these teams so competitive and so closely matched?
I don't know. Ever since the first time these two teams have played, it's been crazy ever since. I mean, I can't point out a single thing that makes it like that, but it's just another growing rivalry, I guess. I don't know.
How do you feel now that you've been here for several weeks, getting acclimated to the offense and that comfort level where you feel like you know what you need to know to be a big part of this offense?
Yeah, I feel like I'm progressing pretty well. I think now I'm to the point where I have a decent idea of the offense overall. Obviously, wasn't here for training camp, so I didn't get the entire, offensive package. But I think I have a pretty good idea of, what's coming and what my job is. So I'm getting there.
What was your vantage point of that last of the kick, of the game-winning kick today? Were you watching? Do you look away? Like, how do you handle when the game-winning kick's going on?
Oh, I'm watching. I'm always watching. Yeah. I mean, as soon as he kicked it, I looked at the jumbotron because I couldn't see, from the sideline. So looked at the camera, and as soon as it went up in there, I knew it was good.
2-0, so you guys go on to Atlanta. And so how do you feel like the team's played? Even though they're 2-0, there's things that you guys can improve upon, but still undefeated still.
Yeah, it's still very, very early in the season, but I like where we're headed. We just got, some small things to clean up. And once we get those things cleaned up, we're going to be pretty tough to beat.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was our very own Stephen St. John, who you can hear here in a few hours. New day with SSJ. He's been out there at Arrowhead Stadium, along with Todd Lebo as well, getting some post-game audio for our locker room report, again brought to you by Twin Peaks. Now we're going to hear from Travis Kelce, who didn't have the biggest of performances, but what did he make of a narrow 26-25 win over the Cincinnati Bengals?
So take us through that last drive. What you thinking there?
I mean, trying to execute and just penalties, man. Penalties on both sides. It wasn't pretty. I don't think either team, got excited about the calls that were made, but at the same time, it's you can't put it in their hands, man.
Travis, by now, how often do you just feel like, oh, we'll find a way?
You know, I mean, anytime it's within a score and we got Pat Mahomes, you know, I'm betting on us.
4th and 16, what was that feeling? Trying to make that play?
You know, it's just you got to find a way. You know, Pat's just telling everybody stay alive. You know, the initial play might not be there, but we got to make something happen out of nothing. And it's and sure enough, we got a little help from the rest. But you know, that's what happens when you keep playing to the whistle.
Travis, how different are these games with Cincinnati? They're all close.
Every one of them, baby.
They're all a lot of talk going back and forth. It seems like they're all playoff games. How different are they?
That's what those are the ones you wake up excited for. You know, I got a lot of respect for the coaches, the players over there, because of the mentality they come into the game or into Arrowhead or into the Cincinnati Stadium with, and you know, every single one of them feels like a playoff game. So that's what you die for, man.
I know it got called back because of holding, but you pump faked the lateral on that one play. Just kind of, do you feel like that bought you some extra yards? Or kind of, I know you lateral all the time.
I mean, I'm just out there playing instinctual. It's just I got to have better ball security on that play in general, though. The ball kind of got out of my hands a few times.
Hey guys, last one. That you gave Kingsley some words of advice considering the situation that happened with him.
I think my guy Kingsley's going to be all right, man. He's a tough kid. He's a smart kid. You know, it's just sometimes it just takes a few times to get beat to figure out exactly what you got to do next time. We got a great offensive line, great leaders in that group, a great offensive line coach and Coach Heck, and he's going to really help him develop. But you know, I think Wanya did a great job of coming in when he did and helping us out.
All right, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Some good veteran leadership there from Travis Kelce, giving some positive words on Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris, who came in the fourth quarter to replace Suamataia, who had struggled against Trey Hendrickson. Also, one thing that I do find interesting, a lot of respect for the players and the coaches on the other side. And I believe I had opened up the show saying, you know, with this rivalry, there's so much hatred, and I don't think either side respects one another. But the Chiefs and two of these interviews, one with Samaje Perine, who was a former Bengal, of course, and Travis Kelce, I got a lot of respect for those guys over there. And I'll believe it because they are the ones saying that. But I do think this rivalry has a little bit more bad blood than any other rivalry the Chiefs may have with another team in the NFL. The next one we're going to hear from is Justin Reid, who was, you know, one of the guys calling the shots for this defense today, and didn't have one of his most impressive games, but it's still early on in the year, and you expect a guy like Justin Reid in the back end of that secondary to come through in big-time games like this. Here's what he had to say after the game.
But, I mean, you got injuries on both hands.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't play wide receiver.
What was your view on Shamari's touchdown?
Stud.
What's
Stud.
that?
Stud day. Stud day all around. Had the big-time sack, the big-time touchdown, the big-time tackle on kickoff. Special player.
Justin said last week that it wouldn't be a Chiefs game without some drama at the end. I don't know if this topped that, but, I mean, what did the flow of this game feel like, and how confident were you guys were just going to figure out a way?
Yeah, the flow of the game was really a game of momentum. It was a game of energy. It was a game of trying to find a spark. They came out with a little bit of energy, and we had to find a way to respond. Came out, made some plays. Shamari was a big spark in that, get the guys going on both sides of the ball. And then, you know, Bucker is just dynamite, man, from anywhere. So we knew once we got the ball into his range that it was game over.
But just related to that, I think you guys have some kind of inner feeling like this all looks kind of bad, it's going to work out. I mean, how do you quantify that?
That's the culture of this team, though. The culture of this team is we don't start pointing fingers, we don't break down, we don't lose confidence in ourselves or our teammates. We fight, we scratch, we claw, and we find a way. Whatever way it is, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to get the job done.
He was a little chippy, of course. It gets that way sometimes. You weren't right over there, but when Jamar got the whatever it was, unsportsmanlike, what did you see on that?
Yeah, I don't know. Not a lot. A little too much chirping, and he didn't help his team on that play. And
were the refs telling you guys to kind of keep it down? Because sometimes they try to do that.
No, I think everyone going into the game knows what type of game that it will be. They're a good football team, man. They came out firing. They wanted to have a bounce-back game for last week, and they fought their ass off. But two competitive teams that have the history that we have, it's going to get chippy like that. But that's what makes the games fun.
Justin won one game by centimeters, and this game on a last second field goal. I don't mean to keep hitting the theme.
I don't know how much smaller we can get. Is there something smaller than a millimeter?
But
as long as we keep finding ways to get W's.
That was Justin Reid after the game talking to media, and yeah, there's a lot of games like this that come down to the wire. And can you get any smaller than a millimeter when pulling out a win like last week against Baltimore, where it wasn't a millimeter tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me, but it did come down to the final play, the final seconds, which was a Harrison Butker game-winning field goal from 51 yards out. Now, the star offensively for the Chiefs was not Harrison Butker. It was Rashee Rice. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Harrison, 4th and 16. What did you see out there?
That's a real broad question. I mean, I seen defense drop back. I got 1-5 in the backfield with the ball in his hands, and I see a lot of space on the field. 11 guys can't take up the whole field, so I know 1-5 going to find me.
Was it pass interference on that play?
Yeah, they threw that flag.
Why would you say that, I guess?
Regular pass interference rules, contact before the ball.
There was a play earlier that was kind of similar. Did you think that one should have been flagged for DPI too?
Yeah, I did. Can't control what the refs do or when they throw flags. So just the next play, it was early in the game, so nothing we can complain about.
That was a dime Patrick threw you on the left sideline for that touchdown. Just kind of take us through that play. I mean, you barely even had to put your arms out.
Yeah. No, that was definitely a dime. It was cover 2, similar to kind of the same route I ran last year, except they gave me the leeway to not make a mistake on the route. So I kind of had inside, outside best release, and Pat just found me and he threw it past the safety where the safety could make a play.
Did you know that's the longest touchdown of your career?
I did not. That's cool, though. Yeah, that's cool.
How different is it when you guys play the Bengals? There's a lot of trash talk going back and forth. It seems like a playoff atmosphere. Is it different than the other regular season games?
Not necessarily. We look at every game the same. We just focus on us. Whatever goes on, in other programs and stuff like that, that's for them. We just got to show up and play on Sundays.
How much talk was going on out there?
Not much, to be honest, just football.
Yeah. Rashee Wanye said he took your dance, your and Xavier's dance on that touchdown. How'd he do?
He did great. I ain't gonna lie. That's my boy. I'm proud of him. That's actually our handshake, so I'm happy he got to do our little dance in front of everybody.
I mean, obviously, Taylor Britt, who you catch the touchdown on, had said some things. Does it mean a little more to catch a touchdown to him, mean a little more to win a game when a team's been chirping like they were this last week?
No, not necessarily. Like I said, we're focused on ourselves. We don't really care what anybody else says. Kind of when you talk, you just got to be able to show up and, play for the talk. So as long as we're focused on the Chiefs, that's all that matters.
How does your mindset change at all, knowing that when you guys were hoping you'd have Hollywood back at some point, now you guys know, it's mid-January at the earliest. So, does that change how you have to approach things at all?
Not necessarily. Last year, I was kind of thrown in the fire. This year, I'm not thrown in the fire. We got a lot more help, a lot more speed, and, we got the best coaching staff in the game, so we're just going to continue to do what we do.
That was Rashee Rice after his performance today, which was a major part of this offense being able to put up enough points to take out the Bengals 26-25. He did have one of the touchdown grabs today and thrown from Patrick Mahomes, the other one being Wanye Morris. So an unlikely guy, and then the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver getting touchdown grabs today for the Chiefs. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. George Karlaftis was a part of the pass rush today, and a pass rush that did turn a strip sack into 6 the other way. You heard that audio from Chamari Connor, scoop and score. But how did George Karlaftis think the defensive front played against Cincinnati?
Just take us through that last drive. We get the ball back to the offense.
That was awesome, man. It's all about finishing out the game. We did that. Super proud of everybody that contributed, and it was great.
Can you talk about the duo that is you and Chris Jones? Just how dangerous the two of you guys are.
We're like brothers, man, and it's awesome playing with him every single day. I learned a lot from him. He's been like an older brother, and just. I love going to war. I mean, not war really, but games. Love playing with the guy, and really everybody else on the team too.
This rivalry is one of the best in the NFL. What's it like to be a part of this? How bitter was that rivalry in the game today? So there's a lot of talk going back and forth and everything else.
Yeah, sure. You know, I mean, we know that they're a heck of a team. You know, we've had some battles, like you said, and these games have been great. They've been tough. They've been close, and we have a lot of respect for those guys. So it was a great battle. We came up on top, and I'm sure we'll see them again.
Does it make it a little sweeter when there's a team that does do some talking during the week? That you can go out and get a W against them?
I'm not going to say that. I mean, it's always nice to shut some people up for the most part and just get away from with the win. You know, that's always what you're hunting at the end of the day. So they can say whatever they want to say. We came out with a win, and that's all that matters.
What's the energy like for you guys in a game like that comes down to the wire, final field goal?
Yeah, it's like the emotions are up and down and everything like that. So it was awesome to get the win, and just super happy for all of us.
What are you going to do for Monday Night Football? I mean, obviously your next opponent's playing tomorrow, so you're going to...
I'll be watching them then. You know, I'll probably be on the couch watching.
I'm sorry, what's your confidence level in Harrison Butker when he goes on the field?
You know, couldn't be higher. You know, he's, you know, we know what he brings to the table. We see him do it every single day. He's a true professional.
George, Tamari Connor, what a game for him. Talk to me about his performance.
Absolutely. Really happy for him, man. He's been a stud ever since he got in. We see the kind of stuff and the plays that he makes and the intensity he brings in practice. I'm happy to see him do it in the game, so super happy for the kid.
So are Mike and Tershawn arguing about who should get credit for that forced fumble?
I don't... Oh, my gosh. All right. You know, those all right, man. You know, it's fitting for them to get the sack. That really changed the game. You know, they're brothers. You know, they're the best of friends. You know, so it was awesome to see them get the sack and the fumble. I don't know if they were necessarily arguing, but changed the game. So they're both really happy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
And that was George Karlaftis with a combination of other guys in the background there. And I'd imagine one of those guys was Chris Jones, who did have the chance to talk to the media alongside Mike Dana. So whenever we got that ready and rolled up, ready to go there, we'll be able to hear from Mike Dana and Chris Jones of what they thought from the defensive performance today from Kansas City. Gave up 25 points to Cincinnati, but a lot of short yardage and short field situations that the defense was stacked up against because of some turnovers by the Chiefs offense. You had 2 interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. You had one of the fumbles from Carson Steele that put the defense in tough spots time and again. But overall, you look at the body of work in these 2 games. The Chiefs defense had to go up against Lamar Jackson, a dual-threat quarterback, and today against Joe Burrow, who looked a lot different than what he looked like against the Patriots in Week 1. Here is Chris Jones and Mike Dana.
We all try to, hone in and, play complementary football.
I mean, what did you? I know that I came in late here. The fumble, the scoop and score. You and Turk coming in there. What was that play like? What did you see from Joe Burrow, kind of getting away from you guys?
Well, he held on to the ball for a while, and going through his progression, and we saw him tuck it, and that was a perfect time to pounce and get to that ball, man. And we were able to make a play on that ball. Chamari scooped it up, and he was able to do his dance in the end zone.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Mike, what is it about these teams? Doesn't matter what the records are, regular season, postseason. It always comes down to 1 or 2 plays. It's chippy. It's like one of the best rivalries in the NFL. I mean, what is it about these 2 teams that make these games so close?
Well, man, this is, as close to a playoff game as, we're going to get. Each year we play these guys, or whether it's in the regular season or the postseason, it's always a game that goes down to the, 1 or 2 plays, But we know it's a 4-quarter battle every time we go against these guys, Much respect to them and their preparation and what they do, because they give us a game every single time. So, we just did what we had to do. We executed, and, we came out.
When it happened in real time, were you pretty sure that it was a fumble, that the ball came out?
Well, yeah, I saw the ball come out, and I tried to crawl to it, but Chamari scooped it up so fast. I was more glad that he was able to scoop it up than me, falling on it, and maybe we wouldn't have a touchdown. So I'm glad he was able to scoop and score and do what he do.
How did you guys knock the ball out? Take me through what happened on the actual play when you knocked the ball loose.
I saw him, holding on to the ball for a while, and he was patting the ball, put the ball down, try to run for it, and, we just pounced on him.
Man, Butker, 50 yards, 55 yards, don't matter. Do you even get nervous when he attempts his game-winning field goal?
No, we don't ever get nervous when Buck's at the getting ready to kick, man. He do this, And, you know, like, he closed, man.
So
He's one of the best closers.
Everybody
No, bro, we ain't nervous when Buck get.
Chris, were you nervous? Were you nervous?
Never nervous when Buck get.
Were you nervous when he attempted the kick?
That's always a possibility. He can
Yeah.
miss the kick. You know what I mean?
So do you
And
watch?
nobody has 100%.
Do you watch or do you look away or do you?
No, for sure. That was too late for Buck.
for him. Yeah.
That was too easy for Buck. That was too easy for Buck. 50 yarder. He made that look like it was cake.
Man. You can't hit the receiver before they got the ball.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that. That's a flag.
Mike, thank you for that, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Mike Dana and Chris Jones. Some R-rated audio right there, but don't do a good job bleeping it out. Had that in back-to-back piece of audio, but when you win a game like that, it's hard not to be feeling yourself a little bit. But they do not have any nerves. At least Mike Dana said that. When Harrison Butker goes out there, nerves of steel. Butker has as he hit the game winner tonight, 51 yards, as the Chiefs won 26-25 over Cincinnati. That's been your locker room report, brought to you by Twin Peaks.
The Chiefs Locker Room Report is brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks.
And we're going to hit a quick break right now. You're listening to the Red and Gold Postgame Show, and it's brought to you by Boda Box Wine. Kick your tailgate party up a notch this football season with Boda Box, the ultimate tailgate wine. Boda Box, this is how we Boda. Please drink responsibly. Sponsored by Boda Box Vineyards, Manteca, California. We'll hit our quick break and come back and wrap up the show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Westlake Ace Hardware. Westlake Commercial, a division of Westlake Ace Hardware, is your local business-to-business supply partner. Our commercial team, dedicated business-to-business website, credit terms, and convenience store locations make it easy. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware store or www.westlakehardware.com/commercial today. Well, the Chiefs get it done 26-25 over the Cincinnati Bengals. Harrison Butker with the game-winning 51-yard field goal. 2 games down, 2 nail-biters, 2 games that were decided on the final play against the Ravens and the Bengals. Now 2 teams you won't need to worry about a tiebreaker with at the end of the year, assuming that comes down to the number 1 and the number 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture. But first things first for Cincinnati and Baltimore, they got to win a game. The Ravens lost today to the Raiders when they led by 10 in the fourth quarter, so a collapse there at M&T Bank Stadium. Cincinnati probably wants that game back against New England. They lost in their home opener and got only 10 points in that game, and now they'll turn their focus to Washington, I believe it is. Kansas City will turn their attention to the Falcons Sunday Night Football next weekend. The Ravens will turn their attention to the Dallas Cowboys, who got drubbed by the New Orleans Saints, who the Chiefs will see here in a few weeks on Monday Night Football. But that's putting the cart before the horse. First things first, this Chiefs team has to take care of the Atlanta Falcons. You can get a sneak peek of the Falcons tomorrow night as they will play on Monday Night Football. Want to make sure I get this right. I believe it's Philadelphia. Yep, they'll be on the road against the Eagles, though A.J. Brown will not be in this game. Well, that'll do it for another edition of the Red and Gold Postgame Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I've been your host, Jack Johnson, alongside Dylan Michaels. Coming up next, you're going to listen in live to the Texans and the Bears on Sunday Night Football. The third quarter is just underway. But as for us, we will talk to you next weekend, Kansas City.